Happy birthday, Ratsbone96. And here's top 10 smartest bosses made by Josh Scorcher, the fiery Joker, of course. Link to his channel in the description. Joshua Burner. I would never get over how perfect that ended out. Josh Scorcher, Josh Burner. Alright, let's see how smart these boss fights are. They're the bosses themselves. I wonder if Armstrong will be on this.
Captain, they've adapted.
What qualifies as a smart boss? Exactly?
One who isn't
Your
just
usual
running
big
into your
brain
weapon.
mad scientist slash double agent figure? Sorta kinda. Being a bit of a brainiac doesn't hurt, but
No, it
there's a
doesn't.
lot more to it than just that.
Yeah.
For this list, I'm talking about
Don't
the
be a
bosses that
dumbass.
learn how you play and can adapt, forcing you to adapt.
Mm.
It's not enough to be tougher than the toughies. You also gotta be smarter than the smarties, sharper than the sharpies, and be able to beat them at their battle of wits or games of cat and mouse. As for the qualifications, puzzle bosses do count, but they have to be intentional. The fight
Yeah.
with Lysandroth should be with combat, not bejeweled. Other than that, the true measure of a smart boss can stem from how long it takes for you to learn the trick, or how hard the fight is even after you figured out the said trick. A lot of bosses might need you to memorize attack patterns, so seeing how hard slash easy it is to learn the patterns also qualifies.
Indeed.
But it has to actually have a deliberate pattern. If it's utterly random and can't be deduced or planned for in any way, it doesn't
It's
qualify.
annoying as hell. So we're starting with this thing.
If a tongue appears over
I'm betting
my
Kingdom
shoulder
Hearts will
at
be in
any
this.
point in this segment, run.
So you grab the recently
Skyward
released
Sword.
Skyward Sword HD, or
No, I
bought the
didn't.
original, and you finally get to the first dungeon. You pick up the beetle, this weird flying toy that can pick up items for you, and you wonder, how am I going to use this for the first boss? Well, you get to the end of the forest temple, expecting to find some sort of giant plant, and instead, you find a pretty boy actor cosplaying as a Twilight vampire.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, you know who this guy is. As far as first bosses go, Gira is unconventional for Zelda games, but that's what makes him one of the more interesting ones. Gira breaks the formula by, instead of using the dungeon item to fight him, he will test your skill of the game's unique sword gameplay.
Yep.
Forcing you to read his attacks and swing
Bit of a
your
mix-up
sword
for the Zelda
accordingly.
formula.
He has his hand out, attack the back of it. He launches a row of crystals at you, swipe in the direction of the wave. And if you aren't careful, he can steal your sword and do massive damage to you,
Yeah.
all the while taunting you as being obvious. He then switches his style by bringing out a sword of his own. Make sure to strike him where he isn't guarding and to dodge at the right moment to counter his attacks. The other two fights with him later in the game follow a similar pattern, with him switching style throughout the fight. But by those points, you'll be more used to Skyward Sword's gameplay.
Yep.
Speaking of the gameplay, this is where the battle can become a bit wonky. While the motion controls work for the most part, they can be a bit buggy,
Gotta make Wiimote
causing this
quests
fight
for
to
these
feel
things.
less smart at points and more, I want to break my TV by throwing my controller at it. And even though I am focusing on the first fight with Gira, all three battles with him do follow this formula, and they are all easy-ish, especially after having spent so much time getting immersed into how Skyward Sword works,
Yeah,
and
later
maybe a few of
fights
the
are pretty
patterns and how the game
easier.
has been designed for you to interact with it. Hence, why he is low.
Yeah.
Still, when you do finish him off, you can feel satisfied. Not only because you feel like you learned something about fighting smarter, but also knowing it was you plunging the sword into him.
Right.
Or you could be using the non-motion controls on the Switch version. That's great too, I guess.
I'm betting Kingdom Hearts is in here somewhere.
When it comes to
said that already,
strategy-driven
but-
games, you don't always find bosses that are particularly smart. More that you have to strategize your way around the boss or their minions to reduce consequences. Pikmin, for instance, puts you on the spot to collect resources, build
Would not have
pathways, and
expected
defeat
Pikmin,
enemies
but I
all
can
within
see
a
why.
time limit every day. While the bosses are mostly straightforward obstacles, there is one that
There
puts
because it
all the
needs to be a
strategic
boss fight.
factors of Pikmin to good use.
I want to side like that.
The
the hell?
Plasma Wraith is the final enemy you encounter in the main story of Pikmin 3.
Ah.
It resembles a certain piece of nightmare fuel from Pikmin 2 and doesn't behave too far off. As you traverse the formidable oak to escape this blob, you gotta carve open your path by tearing down obstacles and removing the enemies on your way. The Wraith will chase you so long as you have Olimar in tow. You have to use that to your advantage and command your leading captain to distract the Wraith
I
while the
see.
other captains investigate the oak and build their paths around it. As the Oak is a pretty big area, you're not going to be able to save Olimar in one go.
No.
Which is why it's important to plan your way around
take
the
shortcuts
level
to only
and
watch
build
out
the
for the cliff.
shortest routes
Ooh,
to
dang.
save Olimar faster the next day. Doing so should net you more time when you start going face to face with the molten roast turkey. Yes, the plasma fight is straight to the point, but it's not without a few curveballs. You gotta hit it until it splits apart and destroy the droplets to permanently damage it. It does adapt to your attacks and forms defensive measures like using elemental shields to protect its core.
No,
and
that is
flying
smart.
in the air to avoid
I see
being
why it's on the
flattened by
list.
the rock Pikmin. As long as you carry
Ooh,
a
dang, it's
balanced
really
team
smart.
of
No
Pikmin
wonder
with
it's the
you
final
and
boss.
not get them all killed at once, the
Yee.
fight shouldn't be too complicated. While the battle is slightly above average fare as far as Pikmin bosses go, the chase sequence against the Wraith was a really intricate take on Pikmin's core gameplay.
Yeah, it's
you
a
have
mix
to
it
apply
for it.
resource management and hazard clearing to grant yourself ample time to fight this boss. Granted, it'd be better if that much critical thinking was put into the whole battle, but hey, how
What are you
picky
gonna
must
do?
one be with their golden
How
breath?
picky must a Pikmin be? Alright, what are we doing next?
In a way, Insomniac's Spider-Man is Marvel's own solution to the Batman Arkham series.
Hmm.
Yeah, you'd have to be blind to not see the similarities with the combat.
Yeah,
and open world
there's a
gameplay.
lot of
And
similarities.
yet, Spidey
But hey,
manages
they're
to
both
create
great
its
games. That's
own
what
fresh
matters.
identity, thanks to its heavy emphasis on story and characterization, as well as its notably brighter atmosphere.
Mm.
Honestly, the only reason it took me this long to talk about this game was that none of the bosses stood out in the other categories. Until now, that is.
Oh, really?
Name's Taskmaster.
Ah, new character.
And you're about to get taken to school.
Meet Taskmaster, a trained
Is that with
assassin
DLC
and
or was he the
tactician
original?
able
I
to
don't know. I
mimic
didn't play
any of his
Spider-Man.
opponent's fighting styles almost flawlessly. And this time around, he's set his sights on the Web Slinger. You actually encounter him twice in 2 side missions, and
side
each
missions.
one starts out with a series of challenges to test you. And the whole time, he's studying you, your
Ooh,
techniques,
that's
your
really
moves,
smart.
everything that makes you tick. After completing enough challenges, he comes to take care of you personally. And sure enough, he's a fast learner.
Yeah,
He's
he
mastered
studied.
most of your moves to the point where he can counter them and is basically immune to your web attacks.
Ooh.
He's also a heavy hitter, which really doesn't help.
No.
What's even more frustrating, you technically don't even beat him in the first round. The minute you
Dang.
have a bit of an advantage, he
He
yeets out of there
runs.
smoke bomb style to study you more.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of a wuss move,
Yeah.
but to be fair, it is playing smart.
It is.
Retreat while you're still ahead and bulk yourself up for the rematch. Fortunately, beating Taskmaster isn't really rocket science. Just keep your distance, avoid attacking directly until you can stun him, and have plenty of throwable objects handy. Yeah, the fact that it's not more challenging to smite him and that he's a bonus boss is kind of the reason he's so low on the list.
Makes sense,
Still,
makes
gotta
sense.
respect a villain who takes the initiative to try and outclass a hero with their own moves.
Indeed, I like this one.
Anything you can do, I can do better. I can do anything better than you.
The good useful thing. Okay, I like the Taskmaster boss fight. That's really smart.
Well, if there's any game on this list that makes you think more on your feet than the others, at least about your sanity, then Pony Island is numero uno. Oh boy, this entire
I know you're
game
an
is
MLP
friggin'
fan,
weird,
but
and
come on,
honestly,
man.
Most of the bosses make you attempt to think out of the box to be able to beat them. But there's one boss that stands above all the rest, as the one to not only test your knowledge, but your sanity as well.
What? Ooh.
Being a self-proclaimed more sophisticated AI than the other demons trying to kill you, Asmodeus decides he wants to play a game with you.
Okay.
The rule is simple. Keep your eyes on him. How would he enforce such a thing? It's trickier than you think. You need to answer his questions correctly and ignore the weird mind games he does, like pretending to crash the game
Who
or
you
hacking
dick?
your friends list. If you aren't careful, he will crash the game for real, and you will need to begin this battle of wits again. And that's pretty much it. The battle itself is pretty short, but it tests your mind in a way that other bosses in
Mind
the game
games,
don't,
pretty
and
smart.
other games don't. It's a psychological battle of wits, talking directly to you, the player, and using the tricks that blur the line between fantasy and reality. As long as you think on your feet and avoid taking Asmodeus seriously, you should be able to win. Though, if you are taking this game seriously at all, then maybe you shouldn't be fighting these bosses.
Yeah,
to
come
begin
on,
with.
man. Look at the title. It doesn't flew by.
How do you usually take down a perpetrator
Ace
and
Attorney, of
You
course.
question them on the stand, present evidence, prove they're guilty liars, and case closed.
I think I know
Exposing
who's going to be
culprits
in this
court is
one.
the series tradition we all know and love. But sometimes that's not always the focus. After all, you're not playing as a detective. But a defense attorney,
Right.
it's not your job to discover the facts.
The bad guy
it's your
from the
job
first
to
game,
wield
the main
those
villain.
facts like weapons
Or
in the
final boss,
arena
rather.
of law. As one of a righteous stance,
can't remember
Phoenix
his name off the
always
top of
holds
my
up to the
head.
virtue of protecting the falsely accused. Otherwise, the case is of no interest to him. So what if he not only has to defend a guilty person, but it's his only option? This ravishing young man is Matt Engard,
No,
an
not who I
action-starring
was
defendant
thinking.
accused of murdering his rival, Juan Corrida. Though he seems like a docile fellow, one look at his background should tell you history doesn't smile upon him. The guy spited his ex-girlfriend by leaking the relationship to
Maya.
Juan, who happened to be her boyfriend at the time. He broke up with her as a result, which led to her committing suicide out
Ooh.
of heartbreak. Juan would later conspire with Matt's manager, Adrian Andrews, to forge a suicide note and destroy Matt's reputation.
Ooh.
It didn't take long before he became the butt of a murder case. Of course, you don't find out about all that until much later, when it's revealed that Matt hired an assassin to do the dirty work of killing Juan for him. The worst part is that Phoenix even thought he could trust the guy, given how he technically didn't lie about not being a murderer.
Hey, you! Come here for a second. I want to talk to you. Okay, so your job is to expose the lying hearts of people, right?
Yep.
Okay, now, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't inciting someone to murder still a degree of murder? So, he's still alive. And let the record show you have reacted before during lies of omission.
Yeah, it's inconsistent.
Are you just picking and choosing things here?
Yep. Whatever helps the story
Normally, at
work.
that point, Phoenix would have just dropped the case, but here's the catch. Matt's assassin, Shelly the Killer, holds Maya hostage as leverage against Phoenix. So either Phoenix complies with his defense, or he loses the person he holds dearest to him. Knowing Phoenix, he couldn't just accept the routes presented to him, so he has to find another way around. And turns out, there is one. Matt has planted surveillance in the crime scene as he intends to keep the killer on the ropes. The killer is not aware of this, and it's up to you to prove it to him.
Ooh.
With the evidence at hand, as well as reinforcements passed down by the police, you have to deconstruct the last
Von
of
Karman,
Matt's
that's right, it was her
schemes.
father that I was
But
thinking
what
of. I
happens
just couldn't
if you
remember
make
his name.
even one mistake?
He's not Von
Well,
Karman, no,
the
it's her
judge will
father.
accept the killer's testimony as valid and declare Matt innocent. While this does mean Maya is saved, Andrews is found guilty in return, and Phoenix leaves the court forever, unable to deal with the shame he brought on his virtue to save the innocent. The cheering gallery that's normally a sign of victory suddenly felt really twisted, knowing this is what it led up to.
Bummer, dude.
Right? There's
But
no winning.
should you convince the killer that he was betrayed, he releases Maya, promising that the man who turned his back on him shall be his next target.
Ooh.
That's when you finally get to see Matt's broken, terrified look as everything's gone down to crap for him. He doesn't want to go to prison, but if he
Maya
goes
possessing
outside,
Pearl.
he's good as dead. After all that stress he put you through, you get the sheer
That's how it
bottomless
works in
satisfaction
video
of seeing
games.
him pay twice the price of anguish. On Guard is a unique boss for this series, as you can't take him down like you have any other witness.
he's very
you
unique.
really have to play with the evidence and figure out how to buy yourself time and gain the info you need to come to the right solution, where all of the guilty are punished and all of the innocent are saved. He's
Okay,
not
so
just
we've
a
got Taskmaster
devious
and
culprit.
On Guard
He serves
so
as a
far.
grim reminder of how truly difficult it is for an attorney to keep treading the noble path without making compromising decisions. With good perception skills and situational awareness, you may be able to tear this case open. But in most situations, we won't always have that miracle.
True. Let's face it, Phoenix got a miracle. That's how he was able to get out of this one. On
hi,
Guard and
Persona.
script in one
Considering that this
scenario.
series is the spin-off to one of the hardest JRPG series of all time, and eventually became its own series that now overshadowed the original Shin Megami Tensei series,
Which is sad.
mostly due to Smash Bros. And Persona 5 being accessible,
Yeah.
and I need to stop talking because of the stupid run-on sentence.
We'll be here all day.
Anyways, Persona tends to be harder than the usual Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest games, so it isn't surprising that there are a few bosses that would be a bit smarter than the rest.
Naturally.
Well, what about the shadow self of your team's smartest character? That should do it.
Yeah,
When
no.
Naruto is kidnapped in Persona 4, she has already portrayed herself as the super smart detective Herald, the detective prince. So it makes sense to expect the shadow self of her to be just as smart.
Naturally.
And, well, she is,
Or they'd be
but
the
she
opposite.
also acts like a toddler to represent Naruto's self-esteem and inferiority issues. So what makes Shadow Naruto smart? Well, she has the ability to target your party's weaknesses and adapt accordingly.
Rude.
She has access to every elemental spell at its highest level.
Damn.
She can use Heat Riser to boost her status and uses moves such as Debilitate to weaken stat, Dakaja to nullify boosts, and Element Zero and high-tier elemental spells with her weakness targeting AI would be difficult on its own.
Jesus.
But she also has a status move called Galgalim Eyes, which can reduce someone's HP to 1 and cast Enervation on them, which halves stats and makes a character forget a move when selected.
You bitch!
To beat her, you need a persona with no weaknesses or resistances like Tam Lin to keep her from exploiting any weaknesses or using Element Zero. Yukiko and Teddy together can keep up with healing, and you should probably stay away from Kanji since she has a tendency to focus on him more for some reason. Despite
Albeit
these
funny
issues,
plot
she
reasons.
isn't that hard. As long as you keep yourself healed and have neutral personas, you should be fine.
Sounds
But
annoying
due
as
to
a
her
boss
varying
fight.
tricks, unique AI, and personality, she is a smart boss in more ways than one. Though, it does make me wonder what my shadow self would be like. Maybe something with water.
Why do I feel a cold chill all of a sudden?
Yo, is he on the list? Because he's not a very smart boss, in my opinion.
Once upon a time, Pokemon seemed so simple, right? Have the stronger Pokemon, earn badges, beat the Elite Four, and moan about how it took Ash 20 years to finally win a league.
Except he won.
Yeah, all
Except
that
that's
changed
untrue
around
because he
Gen
went
3
in the
when they
freaking
started
Orange
putting
Islands.
A heavier emphasis on competitive play. And as with most competitive strategy games like Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Magic the Gathering, gamers can optimize some pretty bonkers win strats.
Right.
This is the inspiration behind number 4, the Frontier Brains. Just when you thought the gym
Why didn't
leaders
you
or
not
the
bring
Elite
them into
Four
the
were creme
ORAS
de la creme,
remakes?
enter the owners of the Battle Frontiers, and they take competing to a whole new level. They each
Oh, right,
occupy
because
a
you have to
different
have
arena,
2
like
Pokemon
Battle
games a
Tower,
year.
Battle Factory, Battle Ready Armor, and Strategist. And
Wrong
each building
universe.
has a different gimmick that'll test your ability to adapt, like having to adjust with rental Pokemon instead of the team you've grown attached to, or having the monster battle on their own
Yeah,
with
right.
no input from the
Which is the
trainer.
most
I'm
horrifying
gonna
one.
enter my Cyndaquil in the Battle Palace. What could possibly go?
If you're in a Nuzlocke.
Yeah, don't even think of taking on the brains unless you're 100% prepared, because Arceus knows these guys are. They got status moves to throw you off your game, items to up their team's performance, and bulked up Pokemon with amazing type coverage. And I know what you're thinking. Can't I just throw a legendary at them because
Nope,
legends are
banned.
awesome sauce? No. Most of them have you leave your legendaries at the door. And I think we've all learned by now that spamming legendaries a good trainer does not make.
No.
Seriously, look up any video with Salty and Pokemon Showdown in the title and try to convince me otherwise.
Yeah, I've
most
seen
of the
those
Frontier
videos.
battles boil down to endurance fights, but all the gimmicks and tricks are designed to teach us about how the Pokemon battle system really works. It's not just about having a stronger team anymore. Now, it's
I hate
about
that shot
playing
of
smart,
Sceptile.
learning to adapt, figuring out tricks in the
It's mostly 'cause
system,
the arm.
and taking the cautionary steps to aid
It's like
you
he's got
as
like
you
a
claw
forked
your way
hand.
to the top. To put it bluntly, you either gotta have the brains to take on the brains, or
Get out of the way!
Yeah, I miss the Frontier Brains, but that requires... Yeah, fuck it. I'm not getting
Mr.
into a Pokemon
Freeze.
rant.
How it began, how it's going now, and the bumps in between.
I
Yeah.
already covered Mr. Freeze in my Ice Bosses list, and even then, we all know his story by now.
Who doesn't
Arguably
know Mr.
the most
Freeze's
tragic
backstory?
Batman villain, dragged into a life of crime for trying to protect his beloved Nora. Needless to say, his debut to the Arkham series through Arkham City was phenomenal, all the way down to his boss fight. Just to set the scene, Freeze learns that his wife has been abducted by the Joker, so he makes Batman an offer he won't let him refuse. Either bring him his beloved wife, or...
Yeah.
Naturally, this failed negotiation turns into a deadly game of hide and seek. And this is honestly the most terrifying boss fight in the game. You have to keep out of Frieza's sight for as long as you can, because taking him head on would be suicide.
Yeah.
Then, when opportunity knocks, you've got to use one of 12 different techniques to incapacitate him,
Dang.
beat him down by a bit, and then quickly move out of the way while he recovers, all until his health bar slowly depletes. Even with barely enough legroom to hide, sounds pretty straightforward, right? Well,
No. Wait, he's learning too?
he's not
He's playing a
kidding. Each
Taskmaster?
tactic
Oh,
will
crap.
only work on Freeze once. After that, you've got to up your game with new strategies because he's definitely upping his. Even without learning from his mistakes, Freeze has a few tricks of his own. He can scan your footprints, call on heat-seeking drones to sniff you out, and can even jam your detective vision so you can't see him coming, meaning any corner you turn could end with you staring into the cold eyes of death. Overall, this brawl really highlights what makes Freeze one of the best Batman villains of all time. It's dangerous enough going head-to-head with him, but the fact he's so easily adaptable makes him nearly unstoppable.
I'll say.
And keeping in mind how you've only
He's
got so much
Taskmastering
space
better
you can hide and escape to
Taskmaster.
really adds to the tension of the scene. The keyword being nearly unstoppable, because if you can figure out all the different tactics to knock Freeze off his feet each time, you can survive.
Well, yeah,
it takes slightly longer depending on your difficulty level, but
Naturally.
doesn't that make it all the more satisfying when you finally pummel this broken man with nothing left to lose?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, maybe don't quote me on
Yeah,
that
because it's
description.
Joker. Maybe I missaw something.
Long, drawn-out boss fights are generally frowned upon in games, and it's not hard to see why. More often than not, they're just damage sponges that are more tedious than challenging. Maybe that's a countdown I can do in the future. Fortunately,
Right,
there
think it
is
probably
a
has
way to
been.
make them work. There are plenty
I know you
of
talked about that
bosses
Final
from
Fantasy
Metal
boss
Gear
way
that
too
could
much
have
out
made this
before.
list. Psychomantis with his fourth wall puzzle of a fight was certainly a contender.
You like Super
but
Mario,
let's not
don't
kid
you?
ourselves. Look no further than the End from Metal Gear Solid 3. The End is an interesting character. Given that he's well over 100 years old, he has several lifetimes worth of experience as a sniper. His goal in the story isn't to kill Snake, it's to experience one last epic battle. Heck, he never actually kills you, he pulls a papyrus and just captures you. As a veteran of several wars, the End is an absolute master of a sniper and can fight for days on end. And due to his parasite, he has natural camouflage and can even conduct photosynthesis. And as I implied before, this battle is long. It can very easily take over an hour. So what makes it work? Well, it's simple. There's no wrong way to fight. Sort of. You have plenty of different options to take the End on. You can track his breathing, you can follow the sound of his rifle, you can even kill his spotter to change his AI. It is a true battle of wits, like Predator, but less horror, but still the same amount of foreign accents. This fight could have easily been a frustrating game of needle in a haystack. Fortunately, thanks to the End's clever AI and all the different options you have, it's easily one of Metal Gear's best.
Interesting.
Of course, if that's too difficult for you, you can always take the easy way out. You can either kill him beforehand, or simply save, advance your system clock, and the End will be dead from old age.
Yeah. Even though he's a journal, it's like, what? Video game logic.
Sexy in Kingdom Hearts 2.
Yeah, I didn't know there was going to be Kingdom Hearts in there somewhere.
Even if they can be a little gimmicky. Dr. Zomboss, Plants vs. Zombies. Thought you had trouble playing at your defense before? Now try a giant robot that can make anything happen. Metaton, Undertale. He actually encourages you to understand your acts and use them where it helps, while he adapts his misdirection fighting style throughout the fight. Bowyer, Super Mario RPG, Legend of the Seven Stars. He can actually disable buttons on your controller.
What?
Forget breaking the fourth wall, Bowyer's weaponized it.
Oh,
Digger,
God.
Metroid Samus Returns.
Oh, that thing's
Same
annoying.
diverse set of attacks and will force you to get creative using your morphs and Spider-Ball.
I remember that boss fight. That was annoying. Took me a few retries on that one.
For our number one pick, we've chosen the most
What do you mean we? It's
terrifying
you.
brainiac of all. A
Well, maybe your
walking,
your
hissing
wife.
war machine that can learn your every move, and if it catches wind of you, you're as good as dead. That's right. Our number one
Where's the
smartest
punchline?
boss is...
Stop. Not so fast, y'all.
Okay, that killed the tension.
Right?
But don't
I knew
worry,
there was a
play this
joke
game enough
coming.
And you'll get that tension back easily.
I remember
Any
this game was
sci-fi
all the
horror buff
rage.
will recognize the xenomorphs from the Alien franchise, a biological weapon created by another alien race that's meant to adapt at a rapid pace despite the environment or hosts. Arguably the most dangerous creatures in the universe, and in Alien Isolation, you gotta go head to head versus one of these slender beauties and make it out alive. And you can't kill it.
Nope.
Isolation thrives on the tense, unnerving atmosphere, and the xenomorph stalking around the ship looking for its next prey cranks that tension up to 20.
Oh, crap.
You'd think sneaking around a lanky alien would be easy, right?
No.
Except this baby breaks the mold of your typical bad guy AI.
It's not an idiot.
It isn't scripted.
Oh,
Instead,
crap.
it has 2 brains in its program.
What?
One to control the alien, and the other to feed it information to adapt to the environment, generally point itself in your direction, and keep 1 step ahead of you.
Oh, crap.
Yes, the game is so masterfully manipulative, it is constantly tailoring the alien to you. It does this by inferring how stressed you are from subtle ways that you play. That's right. You
What?
don't need to just analyze how the xenomorph works. You need to analyze how the game works. And for that, you need to analyze yourself. How do you
How the
usually
frig-
react to oral or visual stimuli? Is your
How would I
default
have more
instinct
fights like
fight
that?
or flight? How often do you check the
Must have been a
xenomorph's
hell to
location? How much
program.
time do you spend being cautious? Do you favor a specific hiding spot? You're not always sure what the game is telling the xenomorph about you. This makes the xenomorph a very daunting obstacle, but for the players who are brave enough to face the danger, it awakens something. This is a program, lines of code, a game, something made to be beaten. At some point, the player realizes,
This bastard ain't smarter than us.
if the xenomorph is nearby, you're not always doomed. Sometimes if the AI detects you're too stressed, the xenomorph could just leave you alone. After all, if you're too stressed all the time, horror ceases to be fun. Dying, especially, is almost never fun.
Right.
One of the biggest reasons being it can severely break immersion. This little bit of mercy by the game can be taken advantage of. This knowledge introduces a little bit of hope as well. You realize it is possible to outmaneuver the xenomorph, but you've got to be unbelievably careful and, most of all, quiet. You need to be cautious, but also quick. You must learn constant situational awareness. You must familiarize yourself with the layout of the rooms as you go, spotting and memorizing hiding spots and escape routes, getting clever with whatever tools you can scrounge up, being good with both long-term strategy and thinking on your feet. With enough time and practice, by the end of the game, the smart move becomes pure instinct. Survival instinct. When it comes to game immersion, Isolation has made it as real as it can get with an alien that can realistically learn and adapt.
It's
the
horrifying.
further in we
The
go.
program
What made
is
it
gonna
so
outsmart
scary
you.
was how smart it actually was. Couple that with a tense, claustrophobic atmosphere, and we may have a game almost on par with the original movie genre by forcing you to live through it.
Ooh.
I'm the Fiery Joker, and
I'm gonna run now.
well, that's it. Time to burn the house down.
Realistic. Alright, I imagine this is gonna be Patreon plugs. Alright, I'll stop it. I'm just gonna stop it here then. Alright, well that was a pretty good list to check out. And now Rat sent me a message to read at the end of the thing. Just gonna get it up. Okay, when you finish reading to the video, which I have, I would like to say which are the 5 favorite I would like you to say which is for 5 favorite bosses on the list, and say what kind of boss we would create if we were making a video game. Do you think you can do that? I can tell you my 5 favorites on the list. I can't, in no particular order. The Xenomorph, of course. The Pokemon Frontier Brains. What was one of them? Mr. Freeze. I like bosses that can actually adapt to your way of thinking, of course. Taskmaster, and the Phoenix Wright one. The name is blanking on me at the moment, but you know what I mean. So yeah, those are my favorites. And yeah, as we're hot, what kind of a boss I would create? I don't know, because I would be making a video, because I'm not much of a video game programmer, but I guess I'm not coming up with my own one, so I guess one that would just learn based off of what you play. I guess more like it would be easier to program, a Taskmaster sort of thing, one that sees how you play and learns from it rather than just seeming to know what you do automatically. Or if it's easier to program, I guess more Mr. Freeze, it just doesn't fall for the same trap twice. Whatever makes the game easier to program for the programmers at the end of the day, but, you know. Because I imagine the xenomorph thing took forever, which is why we don't have many bosses that do stuff like that. So yeah, I guess that's the sort of thing I would do. I like bosses that learn off of you because it proves that they're more than AI and just a thing to punch to beat and just hit the weak point for massive damage. It is actually learning off of you, and it makes you think. And it does ask a question to be like, okay, so how intelligent are we really? If we're getting beaten up by this robot that's pulling us around, and then brings on the whole "are we in a matrix?" question. No, we're not. I don't believe that theory, but I won't lie. There are moments where it's like, wait a minute, another glitch in the matrix. But yeah, I hope that answered your question, Rats. And if not, sorry. Well, you know where you can message me from. And so yeah. Again, happy birthday, Rats, and I will see you in the next one. Later.